Am I the asshole for punching my sister's boyfriend after I found out he was abusing her? Disclaimer, this is not my story time it was sent to me on Instagram. My poor sister is so dumb. And for that matter, so is the rest of my family. My parents are extremely Christian. My sister and I were raised to never interact with men. And if you were to date a man, it was because you were going to marry him. Do you see where I'm going with this? My sister is 22, by the way. She's never had a boyfriend and she's never even spoken to boys before. When she met her current boyfriend, he love bombed her in the first week. He was a perfect gentleman in front of my parents. He said he was Christian. He said that he loved animals and that he had a 9-to-5 job. Well, let me tell you, it's all lies. My sister stopped talking to us for some reason. Obviously, this made me extremely suspicious, so I started going over to his place when she did. That's when I found out that he was pretty much home all day. All day. Sitting on his couch watching movies. What do you think my sister was doing? He would do his laundry, clean his kitchen, cook for him, take care of his dogs. The worst part is I found bruises on her neck and her arms. And when I did, she broke down and told me the truth. He got fired from his job and took it out on her. She said he locked her in his closet for 3 hours and hit her. And the worst part is, my parents told me to mind my business. Part 2 is up. Am I the asshole for punching my sister's boyfriend after I found out he was abusing her? Disclaimer, this is not my story time. When I told my parents that my sister had bruises on her neck and her arms, they told me to stay out of it. Essentially, I needed to mind my own business. I could not believe the words that were coming out of my father's mouth. When I looked at my mother, she had tears in her eyes. And that's when I asked them both, as your daughters, do you think that we deserve to get abused? And of course, they said no. This is when my sister's boyfriend started insisting that she move in with him. I did my hardest to convince her not to. Short of tying her and keeping her in our house, there was nothing I could do. That's when I see my sister walking out of my house with her bags, only to move in with her abuser. Can you guys put yourself in my shoes? I was trembling with anger. I went to her and I got down on my knees and begged her not to leave, but she still walked out with tears in her eyes. I could tell she didn't want to move out. I didn't see my sister for another 2 weeks. She finally came over, and when she did, I interrogated her and literally recorded it. She told me that he wasn't abusing her as badly. He was only checking her phone and only letting her eat at certain times of the day, but at least he wasn't hitting her. And she told me the worst news of all. Proposed, pressured her into saying yes. My parents were happy. Part 3 is up. Am I the asshole for punching my sister's boyfriend after I found out he was abusing her? Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Not only is my sister now engaged to her abuser, my parents are happy about it. My parents know that they've already done it, so essentially, she has to marry him. At first, I thought the same, but the more I think about it, just because my sister did it with this man, why does she have to marry him? The abuse is abuse. There's no justification for it. I had to do something about it. I was at my wit's end. Picture this happening to your sister. What would you do? Found his mother on Facebook and went to visit her with my mom. I needed my mom to join me on this. The fact that she would just cry about it and not do anything pissed me off more than anything in my life. We showed up under the pretext that we wanted to have lunch with her. And to my surprise, his family is extremely wealthy. They lived in a great neighborhood, and their house was the biggest on the block. And she also had an amazing spread for us, with caviar and champagne. My mom and I were stunned. I mean, her son doesn't look like the type to come from a rich family. He has a shitty apartment and no job. His mom told us all the tea. She hadn't spoken to him in over 3 years. He had slapped her before, and they stopped giving him money. So all the times that he said he was employed, it was his parents giving him money. His mom told us that we needed to get my sister away from him. And that's what we did. Part 4 is up. Am I the asshole for punching my sister's boyfriend after I found out he was abusing her? Once I found out from his own mother that he had abused her, my mom and I knew that we needed to get her away from him. We went straight to their apartment, and at first we could hear him telling my sister not to open the door. After 10 minutes of my mother and I begging, my sister finally opens the door. All I did was grab her and pull her out the door. When her boyfriend came at me, I punched him as hard as I could, and he didn't come after us. A few days later, his own mother sent my sister $20,000 to cover the cost of the lawyers. My sister got a restraining order. My mom kicked my dad out of the house, and the 3 of us live in peace now. I'm taking them to Europe for the summer. Would you have done the same? My boyfriend kicked me out of my apartment at 3 in the morning. Is this normal? Disclaimer, is not my story time. My boyfriend is extremely insecure. Let me start off by saying I have never cheated on him, but he accuses me of it every single day. If I go to the gym, if I go to the supermarket, doesn't matter where I go, he's always thinking that I'm trying to look for guys. A couple of days he accused me of it again. I showed him proof that I was at my mother's house. He got so angry that he started yelling at me. And he yelled for 2 hours. I'm not exaggerating. My neighbor knocked on her door and asked if I was okay. That's when my boyfriend pushed me out the door and locked me out. It was 3 in the morning. My neighbor, who's my age, asked me to come over to my place and I said no. I needed to get back into my apartment, the apartment that I pay rent for. I knocked on the door for an hour and he still wouldn't open. By the way, I was just wearing a t-shirt. I had no shoes on, no phone. I finally knock on my neighbor's door and she lets me sleep in her place. An hour later, my boyfriend comes knocking on the door insisting that I come home. When I went back into my apartment, there was broken glass everywhere. Then he started apologizing for breaking my dishes, not for the fact that he kicked me out of my apartment at 3 in the morning. You won't believe it, but things got even worse. I go to my bedroom and what do I see? Go to part 2. My boyfriend kicked me out of my apartment at 3 in the morning. Is that normal? Disclaimer, this is not my story time. He finally lets me back into my apartment. I see a bunch of broken dishes on the floor. He casually apologizes and tells me to go to bed. When I walk into my bedroom, my clothes were everywhere. Mind you, I have very expensive clothes. I have a lot of designer, Fendi, Gucci, and as I got closer to some of my dresses, I could see that he had taken scissors and cut them up. I couldn't believe it. He then flat out denied that he did that. He said that there must have been a demon in my apartment. I asked him to leave and he wouldn't. I just cried myself to sleep. The next morning, I woke up to a weird sound. Luckily, he had already left. He wrote me an apology letter and showed up to my apartment with breakfast 20 minutes later. That's when he said that he had never acted that way before and that he was sorry. But I was traumatized. I let him in with the breakfast. I kept hearing something in my closet. He told me to just ignore it. It was like a really weird noise, but it would stop and then start again. He told me that it must have been something in the walls. Then he told me that he believed me, that I wasn't cheating on him. I even told him that he should just turn on my location so he could see where I am at all times. I know this isn't normal, but guys do get jealous, right? Ended up working things out and he went to work. And he promised he wouldn't do it again. That little noise started up again in my closet. But when I opened my closet, I saw a robotic teddy bear. It had 2 bulging eyes and I had never seen it before. It was just moving around my closet making noise. When I picked it up, it was all wet. I called my boyfriend and asked him if he put it there. That's when he said, "No, I told you there's a demon in your apartment." He texted me later saying it was actually a gift for me. I don't know what to make of it. It's a weird looking bear. It turns on randomly and starts saying things like, "I love you." My boyfriend is on his best behavior though. He hasn't accused me of anything and we haven't fought in over a week. In fact, he's been bringing me lunch and bought me all the dishes that he broke. He even took me to Gucci to replace the dress he cut up. I haven't told my friends or family because I'm kind of embarrassed. Do you guys think this is normal?
Am I wrong for kicking out my daughter's gay friend over accusations? My wife and I are in no way homophobic, but we have the same rule for all of our guests. So basically, my 15-year-old daughter has a friend who's lesbian. They've had many sleepovers and she's very polite. The 2 girls are very close, share the same bed, cuddle when they go to sleep, and are inseparable. Our youngest son, age 12, told us that our daughter was dating this said friend and he saw them kiss earlier that night. My wife later went to try and check up on the kids and say goodnight, but our daughter's door was locked. Now, I'm not gonna lie, y'all know I'm a lesbian. Back when I was young, yeah. And when my wife later went to try and check up on the kids and say goodnight, our daughter's door was locked. And when my wife knocked, it took a few minutes and panic before the door was unlocked. We have no issue with our daughter being into women, but we have the same rule for our oldest son. No females or anyone he's romantically interested in spending the night. Am I wrong for kicking my daughter's gay friend out over accusations? When my wife knocked, it took a few minutes and panic before the door was unlocked. We have no issue with our daughter being into women, but we have the same rule for our oldest son. No females or anyone he's romantically interested in spending the night. I had my wife drive the friend home, in which my daughter was really angry at me and accused me of being homophobic. She also said that I was kicking her friend out for no reason, and she's still angry. Top comment says, "You're not wrong, but boy, are you in a pickle. She's not gonna take this well, so maybe compromise somehow and invite the friend over for other activities and have some discussions." Another comment says, "Honestly though, this could have been handled better. I understand where you and your rules about sleepovers are coming from, but this is a big deal to your daughter. Stop thinking about it as your kid trying to break the rules and think about how you possibly found out something huge about your daughter. And she didn't even get the chance to tell you." Am I wrong for not telling my friends my party won't have alcohol? I don't know about you guys, but me and my friends definitely communicate this every single time if we'll be doing that or not, just so there's no miscommunication. I, 25 female, recently had a birthday and usually don't celebrate it, but 25 felt special. I work evenings, so I invited about 15 friends over for a Saturday afternoon, about 12 to 5-ish. Now, I don't drink because I can't mix my meds with alcohol, and my friends know this. I baked a cake, bought some candy, made nachos, bought some chips, and bought an assortment of sodas that I know my friends like. I also set out some games to play in groups like Mario Kart, Super Smash Bros, and some board games. That sounds like so much fun. Then I invited my friends and let them know it's just an informal get-together to chill. They all seemed excited, but they seemed disappointed when they got there and there wasn't any alcohol. Some were even upset, and one texted me after to say it was rude. And that same friend hasn't spoken to me since. Am I wrong for not telling my friends my party won't have alcohol? They seemed disappointed when they got there and there was no alcohol. Some were even upset, and one of them texted me after to say it was rude not to tell them beforehand. Whew, that is not a real friend. Now, I don't drink. It's not something I consider to be a need for a get-together, and I didn't even think of it. But several of my friends were upset, with one of them being downright angry. Edited to add that I guess to my friends party equals alcohol, so they were expecting it. I honestly didn't think they'd want to drink in the early afternoon and fully associate alcohol with evening. And I definitely would have let them know beforehand if I knew they wanted it. And yes, I know now, I'm planning on letting them know if I don't serve alcohol in the future. Are you kidding me? So it seems like original poster is basically saying that they understand they were kind of wrong for not letting them know. F that. If they want a bottle, bring your own bottle. If you get there and there's no alcohol, get your butt up and go get some alcohol. Like, what am I hearing?